Thanks for joining Scene Squad. I'm your host, political culture critic Sharron with two R's, and I'm joined today with my co-host, historian and financial guru, Miss Rosalie, and you're watching and listening to Seen and Heard podcast. I'd like to start off with giving a shout out to my Buddhist Sangha, Buddhist Coalition for Democracy. They represent a broad coalition of Buddhists from multiple traditions, lineages, and with differing political opinions. Radical, progressive, liberal, centrist, conservative, and libertarian. I don't know. I haven't met any in the group, but they share a common goal of ensuring democracy's survival. So I'm going to flip this around and I'll have the link in the description box, but I want you guys to see their webpage. And here it is right here. And you guys could go check it out. You don't have to be a Buddhist to join, and they are very adamant about radically fighting this regime, the Trump regime. And let me see here, about us. Can you see the about us page? Here it is. Coordinating committee members. Hello, everybody. Oh, they just changed it. It didn't look like this last night. But I'll have the link so you guys can check it out on your own. And we are going to open up with this weekend. We've got a lot to talk about. We had a little vacation break. I didn't get to make it to Washington, so I was really, really sad about that. But that's a long story. But I'm glad to be here with Rosalie and all you guys.
It's good to be back. Yeah, May was a wild month for myself as well. I just had too many different things going on with spring kicking off. So glad to be back in the studio with you, though.
Yay!
We can chit chat, talk about some stuff. I feel like we need to catch up and get some stuff off our chest.
Yes.
So,
I want to play this video, and then we're going to talk on the other side. And then there was a response to it. So I guess I'll play it back to back. So I'm going to start with this video of Joni Ernst. And then a response.
When we're talking about the corrections in this reconciliation bill, again, it's corrections of overpayments and people that have not been eligible for these programs by law as it is currently written. So when you are arguing about illegals that are receiving Medicaid benefits, 1.4 million, 1.4, they are not eligible, so they will be coming off. So people are not, well, we all are going to die. So for heaven's sakes, folks. Okay, no, but what you don't want to do is listen to me when I say that we are going to focus on those that are most vulnerable. Those that meet the eligibility requirements for Medicaid, we will protect. When we're talking...
While dear, sweet Senator Joni Ernst is telling you, her constituents, that we're all going to die, Joni gets a food allowance, a per diem, every day for food. $68 a day. And in places where food costs more, she gets $92 a day. But Joni said, you're going to die because you can't have SNAP and we've got to cut Medicaid. We can't do this, people. We've got to fight back. While dear...
Your thoughts on that?
I think it's really important, and I love the response video that was made, because as somebody who works in finance for a living, works in mortgages, and I do math for a living, right? And I think the thing is that a lot of people are just not willing to take that one extra step to actually see, like, people think about, okay, they have a base salary, 147K a year or whatever, to serve in Congress, or whatever that happens to be on their pay grade. But they don't talk about the things like the per diem food, or the what it's tens of thousands of dollars of a budget every year they get for just furniture, in the amount of extra things and services, gyms, all the memberships, all the things that they get are the things that, should we want an ROI on our tax dollars to pay into services that we can benefit from, like the services that our tax dollars are paying for the people making these rules, then all of a sudden we're entitled, we want too much, we're all going to die. Like,
And the healthcare.
and the thing is people aren't willing to accept that answer. And I do love that even the Republicans are pushing back on her, right? I think it's important that anybody who gets it is willing to understand that, like, these people who are dealing with these billionaires, and pretending they're doing it on our behalf, are they have a red stamp next to their name, they have a blue stamp next to their name. Either way, we need to be pushing back on them. And so I think it's very important that we push back with the actual numbers, because I think facts matter. People are so focused on their emotions right now, but it's very important that we frame how we make our opinions on the facts in front of us, and not just how we feel about them, because that's how we kind of got into this mess in the first place. So I really like how she chose to break that down and address something rather than playing into the emotion of it exclusively. I think that's very important.
And speaking of numbers, on top of their allowances, they have access to knowledge of insider trading, and also the donations that they get. And there's a site that everybody could go and check out. It's called Open Secrets. Open Secrets, I think .com or .org, and it shows all of the politicians, Democrat, Republican, whoever, that has a politician on their job description. That shows all of their donations and who's donating, and that's how we found out that U-Haul donated to Trump. You know, with this past scandal with the Patriot Front, the Nazis riding in the back of the U-Hauls. Well, the CEO supports Trump. He donated to Trump. So, but yeah, let me pull this up. Let me see here. Open Secrets, so everybody can see what I'm talking about here. Okay, so Open Secrets is a nonprofit organization. I'm going to flip this around so you guys can see it. Let's see here. Okay, Open Secrets. This is the website here. So it's a nonprofit organization that keeps data on lobbying groups, elections, politicians. What is that? No, I don't want to donate. I'm broke. Speaking of donations, I am fundraising. So we can stay on the air. You guys can keep seeing Rosalie and me. But yeah, so that's the site, Open Secrets. Do you see it, Rosalie?
Yeah, I can see it on my hands.
Okay, yep. There we go. So yeah, let me see here. Okay, here's the federal. Start your search. Let's say Joni Ernst. Let's see here. Joni Ernst. Let's see what pops up on Miss Joni. Oh, what is that? That's not the right where's the lobby? It should have wait, here it is. Let's see. Okay, there we go. So top industry 2019, 2024. This top contributor was NORPAC. I don't know who NORPAC is. Her first election was 2014. Next election is 2026. And it has here she's got $2 million cash on hand.
NORPAC is NORPAC is an American Israeli lobby, which it's like AIPAC essentially.
Okay,
it's founded in 1944. It says it's the most active grassroots political action committee supporting the critically important U.S.-Israel relationship. So it's basically an APAC of sorts.
Okay,
Is her
so
biggest donor.
there they are. Individual donors, total donors, PACs. And then here we got Blackstone Group, Capital Group. Capital Group, isn't that prison company or something? And here, Republican Conservative she's got real estate holdings. But yeah, cash on hand, $2 million. Must be nice. But I'll have the link on there so everybody could go look up all your politicians, any of your politicians. You could find them in there.
Appreciate you sharing that resource. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, okay. So next on the agenda, and then we're going to get to the updates on the Gaza attack or attacks on Gaza and the little girl in the fire. Did you find out any updates on her? She was walking through the school after that attack. I saw a video clip of her.
She survived and was interviewed. She had some burns on her. She did survive
but she's traumatized. Yeah, so I saw that. Yeah,
which I mean, thank goodness.
So let's see here who's causing us grief. This was another incident in the White House. Elon got a black eye, but this video I'm just going to show a clip of him because I don't really like hearing them talk or anything, but we're just going to discuss on the other side of this video.
That's totally fair. I can't stand it either.
Because we have the right to make grants. We're not going to make any grants like that. But I don't think Harvard's been acting very nicely. I think Columbia wants to get to the bottom of the problem. They've acted very well. And there are other institutions, too, that are acting, but Harvard's trying to be a big shot. It's a very sad case.
So I know we discussed earlier, and this is just rhetorical out to the audience, and I just have to just get it out because it's just a blatant, obvious observation. If President Obama had crackheads in the White House, high like this, like he's higher than his imagining trip to Mars.
The impeachment would have been immediate.
And Jake Tapper, where are you? What do you have to say about this Jake Tapper? That's why his ratings are low now.
And I know that you and I discussed this off air, but like, it's not the addiction that's the problem, in my opinion. Addiction itself is a disease, and it's horrifying, and it can get anybody at any time. All of our brains are wired to become addicted to things.
Right.
But an unelected, incapacitated foreign agent in the White House, this isn't about addiction. It's so much more than that. That's just another factor that should be factored in. You can be addicted to drugs and get treatment for that, but you can't be high in the Oval Office going loop-de-floopy
and not in a suit. Remember that?
Right.
He didn't have a suit on.
And I think when I have seen videos recently that Elon is attempting to distance himself from some of the choices that the Trump administration has made, especially with this new tax, this big, beautiful bill or whatever they're trying to do. Even Elon's like, yeah, I can't even lie and pretend that that's going to be a helpful thing to do. And so you see,
yeah, I don't believe
that
it.
Some are because I think that, and I know we talked about this, is it's going to get to a threshold where he's going to mess with enough rich people's money, right? It's going to mess with enough rich people's money that it's not going to, like, there's one of the biggest billionaires that is helping run the whole situation. Didn't he sue the U.S. government because of what's going on with the tariffs and the trade wars and everything? Wasn't it one of the Koch brothers or something like that? I can't even remember who it wound up being. We talked about this a few weeks ago, though, that one of like the mega billionaire donors for the Republican Party sued the government over these tariffs.
Speaking of these billionaires, Mr. Taco, we gotta keep saying Taco. Let's go, Taco. We're gonna keep calling him Taco. He got upset about that yesterday, bit out his shape. because of that journalist and whoever she is. Thank you. But we talked about Leonard Leo. Leonard Leo was he's the reason why we have the Supreme Court that we have. And this is what Trump, I guess he was high on his Adderall or whatever in the middle of the night, and he's tweeting this about how Leonard Leo is a bad person.
Yeah,
All of
and
a sudden.
I know that there was his tweet from Memorial Day, which was just completely.
I posted that on my TikTok. You guys go follow my TikTok.
I know. Yeah, go Tragedy Ann on TikTok. Go check it out. You're very good about keeping up with some of those items and having it posted regularly. I don't. It's not. There's not much that needs to be said. If you read the tweet, you'll understand the
right.
or whatever. You'll understand why it was entirely disrespectful to his office as president and disrespectful to the people who've lost loved ones who were supposed to be the ones that were the center of the conversation that day. And it just speaks again to how little he actually cares about the people he espouses to care about. It shows you how little regard he has for anyone that's not gonna exclusively soothe his ego. You know, and I did see a video the other day and I meant to send it to you, so I'm sorry it's not queued up.
Okay.
Feel free to fact check me on some of these items if y'all feel like it. But it was a member of the military, or a former member of the military, kind of discussing what he had seen and talked to some of the people, and what he was observing from folks who are doing active duty is that despite the fact that they're receiving some guidance here or there that is clearly just meant to disturb the readiness of the military at the moment, a lot of the folks in charge of the soldiers are not allowing some of these things to filter down to their soldiers, or to their airmen, or whatever branch they happen to be in. I'm not saying that it's across the board or that there's like a coup being formed. That's not what I'm saying.
Right. I think I saw that video.
It's more of their understanding what is going to be impacting the readiness of our troops, and they're making the decisions that's best for the United States, despite the fact that the person in charge has no idea how to even do that. The commander-in-chief has no concept of how to do that because he never served. He made sure of that, and his daddy made sure of that. And I'm not saying that you have to serve to be able to be the president of the United States or to make good decisions as a commander-in-chief, but it's very obvious the attempt to shame and tarnish the veterans who don't go out of their way, or the people who POWs who don't go out of their way to massage his ego. And here we go. And I know you brought up the post. So yeah, he made it everything about people who weren't the folks who were supposed to be centered in this day. He made it about literally hate. And he couldn't even save a single day to remember the people lost. And again, I think it just speaks to the tone of how he is going to handle being a commander-in-chief from here on out. And we'll see how that impacts the respect that he's going to get from the individuals who are supposed to be serving under his command, you know?
This is, I couldn't believe it when I saw, I saw this. I thought, and lately, everything I see that's coming out of that, like, I'm not going to look for it, but I follow plenty of people that keep posting it, and then it comes in my feed and I take a glimpse at it. And I was just like, my stomach got upset when I saw this. I was just like, you know, I was adopted into a great family. I love my family. My birth father, the reason he passed in Vietnam. And then just the thought of how Trump dodged the draft, and, you know, it's just, and then people like him. And then he is in our highest office of the land, and he's posting stuff like this. Like, I just don't, and like we were saying it off camera, talking about the people in the cult. They're a lost cause. I'm actually personally, for myself, I'm not going to exert any extra energy into trying to convince them, which I never try to do that anyway. That's just a lost cause. Use that energy to try to you know, make a path for progress, because all of this is, which upsets me as well. I'm going to be passed away, and all of this is still going to be going on several generations, not just one generation. This is several generations worth of damage, like undone in months.
Right. And it's one of those, it's so much harder to get something back once it's lost. But what I'm trying to hold on to hope for, and I understand that there are folks who are Gen X boomers who are looking at this and realizing like, this struggle is not going to be something that's solved in my lifetime. I am not even 100% sure. My hope is that I get to see that moment in my lifetime for my daughter, and watch her experience it. My hope is certainly not that in 80 years, or not 80 years, because I won't be here in 80 years. I don't want to live to 110.
Right.
I won't live there.
Right.
Or however long it's going to be, 30s now. But, I don't want to be in my 70s or 80s the way the way that Holocaust survivors are looking at what's going on now, the way that people who fought during the civil rights movement are sitting and looking at, and they're watching that. And I know there's this phenomenon they talked about, that after once 80 years passes from an event happening, because it has been essentially almost an entire human lifetime, if the history is not maintained and remembered and recorded and passed down, the likelihood of repeating it becomes so much more likely, which is why you see them targeting education. It's why you see them targeting history. It's why we talk about what we talk about on this podcast.
And that's why I feel the way I feel, which hurts my heart, because especially erasing the Black history, there's a reason they're trying to, and just seeing that attack on Black history. Yes, the Black community can do so much educating of our own kids and all that, but they're legislating it to be illegal. And it's like, and then speaking of illegal, I'm like, well, if they're not following the laws, which this is rhetorical as well, and it's sarcasm, I mean, why should we?
I think, right. And it's kind of and it goes back to the thoughts that in the conversations we've had about the 18th Amendment. Mm-hmm. If no one's going to enforce all of these things that are coming out, everybody has a choice still, to this day, still has a choice to decide, hey, even in a constitutional amendment, I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it in that sense. And it is going to be a power of the governed. If you can see that when collectively we decide, even if it's a constitutional amendment and we're not going to do it,
right,
we get back the things that we wanted. But it took everyone across, it took people across multiple ethnicities, both genders. Everybody was on the side of, you're not going to tell me what I can put in my body.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was definitely my body, my choice, even back then. You know what I mean?
And that's why I try to be so hopeful.
The whole country came together for my body, my choice, for the 18th Amendment. I don't understand why we can't, I do understand, there was a concerted effort and a degradation in a lot of the things that were put in place by the last generation who saw what happened. Mm-hmm. A lot of the measures were put in place, but they were also put in place centering whiteness. Yep. It was never a solution because we centered whiteness in the solution. So it wasn't a solution because the problem was centering whiteness.
Yep.
And so until we decenter that piece of things, that default setting, when it's not the majority of people, it's not even the people that this country was actually inhabited by before we arrived on this rock, until we can get to that point, which I think we can, with the Gen X and millennial generations working the way that we are, you're seeing that across the globe, they're not putting up with these things. In different countries, Israeli ambassadors are being booed out of universities.
Yeah, and that keeps me hopeful.
Right.
And then not sounding like a...
Right. And the U.S. is not the center of the world.
Right,
we're not the world anymore. And that's scary.
And I want to clarify that, yes, that hurts what I'm seeing hurts my heart. But I kind of feel hopeful because I am Gen X, and especially with the Buddhist Sangha that I'm a member of, and they are aggressively going to fight against this regime, which I'm just tickled to death. I'm just like, that keeps me hopeful.
Well, you gotta remember, like we were
Yeah.
saying, like the Buddhist
During the
individuals
war.
have been part of civil rights struggles
Mhm.
globally for the last 100. You know what I mean? They've been doing that.
Yes.
In modern history, they show up everywhere in
Yeah.
modern history, fighting for people to be able to live their truth and in a way that benefits the world as a whole,
Mhm.
society as a whole. A collective mentality is the only way to get out of this. And white supremacy culture centering whiteness is not a group mentality.
And mindful. They're going to be mindful at the same time,
right.
because
And
it's going to be nonviolent,
right.
but aggressive.
And well, I mean, but what I will say is they have used violent forms of resistance, but it's personally violent, right? It's the self-immolation,
Yes.
right? It's not, I'm going to go and detonate a bomb in a building,
right.
To send a message because I don't like the CEO of this company or something like that. It's very much taking it within oneself.
But they understand also you have to disrupt within your protest as well. So you can't, like with the protests with the marches that happened like a few months ago, yes, as admirable as that was, that happened on the weekend. Protests are supposed to disrupt, like during the week, making people uncomfortable so they can see the protests. On the weekends, people are at home, they're cutting their grass, some are sleeping late.
Exactly.
Like I said, it's admirable because I'm not taking away for the attempt.
But if it doesn't get in the way, it doesn't get in the way.
Exactly. And it's not going to work. It's not going to. Now, look at the Target protest. Black women started that. Black women started that protest, no matter how many men you see now coming out in front of the cameras, like Al Sharpton. Black women started that protest, and how they started it, they didn't get out in the streets. They just closed their wallets. They closed their wallets.
Organize. Exactly. There's a lot of different ways to disrupt. We all have a different role to play. What I'm not going to say is that this will be overthrown with simply peaceful means.
Right.
It won't.
It's not.
That's not how this type of a regime works.
It's not.
Pretending that violence isn't going to be part of what moves the needle, it would be ridiculous on my part. It would be the violence isn't the answer.
It's not.
It's violence may not feel like the answer to you, but it is the language that's being spoken. And we do need to become fluent in the language being spoken at the very least to protect ourselves from what that can create, because language matters.
Speaking of language, let me flip this around now. I love the shade. Now, I'm not sure if it's shade or not, but I think it's really funny. Now, everybody's aware. Well, you may not be aware. June 14th is supposed to be Taco Trump's birthday, right? So he has basically hijacked the already scheduled military parade that was already scheduled without him in mind. So he's basically hijacked it to be his, quote, military parade, because, and I'm going to say hijacked, and it's not his, because the New York Times, I saw the New York Times headline saying, oh, Trump's finally getting the military parade that he wanted. He hijacked it. It was already scheduled. But I thought this was,
going to be going past the White House because it's on their
that part. So he's just going to get in the way, because they're going to have to, he's inconveniencing them because they're going to have Secret Service and set up protections and all that. So he has hijacked this already scheduled military parade. But this was funny. Pope Leo is addressing the youth on June 14th. Now, I'm just like everybody else, even if I've been watching the comments, reading the comments on this, and it's like, I'm not Catholic, but I want to take a look at this, So all of the viewership that may have been on Trump that he was expecting, I believe is going to be on Pope Leo.
I mean,
so it's like he's like passive aggressively Shade.
Well, the thing is, we had already said we were gonna TBD how we felt about what it was gonna be like to have an American Pope, right?
Right, right.
And we're just gonna get to see how this plays out, because watching the Roman Empire, aka the Catholic Church,
Uh-huh.
go up against a wannabe Roman emperor, Nero slash Trump. This is gonna be
This
this
tickles me
is
though.
gonna
Look at his face. It's just like
got a little
tickles.
bit of sass, a little bit of sass.
So yes, I'm going to be catching in on the highlights of that. Also, the other day, let me see. Let me stop this here. So I don't know if, and this is the weekend, so some people may have been at work and you did not get to see the the journalist. Let me see if I can find this. Go ahead and talk. I'm gonna see if I can find this video where the journalist addresses him about Taco.
I'm going to do a quick update on some of what we're
Okay.
hearing out of Gaza, because we're getting towards the end of it. And I do want to mention what's going on there. It's very important before we get out. Is that they're working on a ceasefire deal that the United States is trying to negotiate directly with Hamas, because Israel has been tough to come to the table. But it seems like there is talk of a temporary situation, which we keep hearing about temporary situations. I think it gives Israel another opportunity to violate a ceasefire agreement, frankly. The humanitarian aid that they are trying to get out to folks, because of this this U.S. involved group that's supposed to be distributing aid, is actually just causing more havoc. And I think it's specifically designed to cause havoc, to be like, see what happens when we give them food. But when the reality is that they've been starving to death, and they're
So
going to
was
act
it?
like people who've been starving to death. When you queue them up in lines, they're being shot at,
Mm,
people are being murdered as they go, in the same way that we've had massacres happen. The Flower Massacre that happened back like a year ago, I think it was like April 2024 that happened. Don't quote me on that. I can go
that
look
was
up.
before
It's happened
Aaron
so many different
Bushnell.
times. It's hard for
Right,
me to
right.
center in on which one it is, frankly.
I think that was
Um,
before Aaron Bushnell.
Right. And it's been happening since, right? Any distribution zones have been a heavy target for sniper fire and things like that. And we're also seeing schools continue to be bombed, dozens of people murdered per day, including children. I know you discussed the video of them bombing one of the schools. I think they lost 25 to 35 individuals, at least, that were recorded as of a couple of days ago. And there was a little girl that they actually caught walking through the flames. She reported that she saw that her mother was dead, I believe, as she was walking through the building, but saw that her father and I think one of her siblings was alive, and was able to get out before she was consumed by the fires and that. And so what we're seeing is the pressure from the international community. Finally cannot ignore what the starving is. Math is only going to be able to be skewed so many times before people realize, like, no aid has gotten in 3 months and there's no food. Like,
Mm.
this is actually, you cannot ignore that, despite the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to gaslight people into thinking that that's what's going on. There's no starvation, is what he claims, still to this day. But you're seeing that the Western powers are starting to turn. My problem with it is that they're trying to turn it in a way that made it seem like all of a sudden they're crossing a line, when the reality is that we know that they've been crossing a line for a long time, and y'all are just trying to save face. So people like Pierce Morgan finally doing an about face, I think, is more so to protect his own image, because he now knows that the pendulum has swung enough that it's now popular enough to push back. And we love that we've gotten to the point that it's popular enough to push back, but hundreds of thousands of people have died in the meantime.
I've
Um,
seen it's
so,
encouraging to see other countries. I've seen last night, I think I sent you a couple, but in Korea, they are confronting the Israeli people that come into their restaurants and stuff. It is peaceful protest, but in South Korea, they are confronting them and they are like, no, you don't belong here. You need to leave. You know, Japan as well. And there, I can't remember the man's name, but since October 7th, there's a Japanese man that even by himself, like all this time, he's
yeah,
standing
he's
in the middle
okay.
of, yeah. hmm
Mhm.
but not just him, but there's like a collective protest in Japan and South Korea that I've seen the past few days. Let me
You're also
see.
seeing like Spain, the one of the representatives from Spain at Eurovision was saying that that Israel should not be invited back.
Eurovision, really?
Yeah, Spain was saying
Really?
he was kicked out of Eurovision. There's another sports competition that happened recently where one of the athletes, I think he was Eastern Bloc of Europe, old Soviet Union. I think it was. I can't remember what country it was. I don't know if it was. It wasn't
Was it
Bulgaria.
Czech? The Czech or
but he was recently. I think he won gold at the event. He won first place at the event, and they actually threatened to take away his medals from him because he did a pro-Palestine protest when he received his medal, and he took his medal and he threw it in the river.
Okay, I can't remember who it was, but I did see that.
I'm going to try to look him up while you bring up the other article.
Okay, let me see if this is. I'm gonna. These pop-ups keep coming up here. Okay, I'm gonna flip this around, and like I said, the lady.
He's Turkish. He's from Turkey.
Turkey. Yes, I did see that. I saw that on TikTok.
He's from Turkey.
I saw it on TikTok.
So okay. I'm sorry, it wasn't Eastern Bloc. It was Middle Eastern. Apologies.
Okay, so let's hear this.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practice.
Okay, enough of that gaslighting. But did you see his face? Trump always chickens out, taco. So we post that everywhere on social media on June 14th.
I will go back to saying that I really do wish that he had gone into musical theater. I really do. I really wish that he had been the theater kid he wanted to be. He'd have been a full tilt diva. He'd have squatted the runway. He'd have won a Tony. If he had just followed the dreams I have for him.
Look, all you guys out there, we want to see your creations. So if you're on TikTok, make a video on June 14th. Taco.
Video.
Taco, TACO, taco. And you guys go check out Rosalie's TikTok, and you could go check out my TikTok, and you'll see, like, get some inspiration.
I wish June 14th were on a Tuesday this year, but I think it's on a weekend.
Is it?
That would have been fun for it to be Taco Tuesday.
I know, right?
It would have been fun. What a shame. We'll get there. We'll get there.
I got a ride to Costco yesterday, and we were walking down the freezer aisle, and I saw tacos, and I was like, "Oh, chicken tacos!"
Not you having a whole moment at Costco.
I didn't take a picture. I should have. I just started laughing too much. My friend ran to the little sample lady, the lady that was giving away. I didn't think about it. I thought that was funny, though.
That's awesome.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And like I said, don't forget to thumbs up the video, like, share, leave us a voicemail. And if you like these glasses, I'll have the link in the description too for the glasses. They're actually sending me some sport glasses. I'm waiting on them to get here. So I don't know, depending on how manly they are, I'll wear them and show them off. Like, I guess it'll be unisex or whatever. And then I'll get my friend to wear them, so you can see what they look like on a man.
Awesome.
So we will see you guys on the next show. And don't forget to donate. We're fundraising. So I raised $225.74, and I am short $741. So you guys can help me get to the 741. Like whether it's 5, 10, 20, everything will help.
Believe in y'all. We can do this.
Thank you.